Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is one that I am both really excited and a little bit nervous to make. You see, I, Andrew, co-founder of The Bros, am a huge Nintendo fan. It has only become more and more a pillar of my personality as I've gotten older. For better or worse, I care a lot about this company and their little red plumber. So with the Switch 2 gaining steam as we enter the holidays, we thought it'd be a good time to wrap a bow on what's likely to be one of the most successful consoles of all time. Of course, Nintendo isn't quite done with the old Switch yet. They're still releasing plenty of games for it, but still, I've been sitting on this video for a while and I'm ready to finally get it out there. Now, admittedly, this was a really tough list to put together. The Switch is loaded with amazing games, like a truly absurd amount. Trying to narrow it down to just 15 co-op picks is basically a guaranteed death sentence in the comments, and I'm fully prepared for that. But to at least explain my thought process before the pitchforks come out, here's how I approached it. I focused on what makes a great co-op experience specifically on the Switch. What helps you become the girl on the rooftop we all secretly want to be. With that mindset, I gave a lot of weight to 3 things. Number 1, exclusivity. Is it a Nintendo exclusive, or was it at least at launch? 2, is it local co-op, because the Switch's special sauce is gathering friends and family around the same couch. And 3, accessibility. Is it the kind of game you could play with just about anyone, whether they're a hardcore gamer or a total casual? When I think of the Switch, I think of how easy it is to just grab a Joy-Con and hand it to someone, no tutorial required, so that's how I built this list. Even so, I am sure I'm going to miss something, so let me know your picks in the comments. Agree or disagree, it's all good, the algorithm doesn't care either way. That's enough talk, let's get into the list. Alright, this first pick might be a little controversial, but is a perfect example of the 3 key factors that I'm focusing on, because Age of Calamity actually does nail all 3 at once. For the uninitiated, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is a Dynasty Warriors spin-off of the GOAT, Breath of the Wild. That means you're taking on massive, large-scale battles as iconic Zelda characters, mowing down hundreds of enemies with an absurd arsenal and an even crazier roster of heroes. It also came packed with a 2-player local co-op split-screen mode, one both Gabe and I really enjoyed. It was super satisfying to chain big combos, show off a new move, or split up objectives only to meet back in the middle for the climactic final battle. Of course, the Goron in the room was performance. This thing ran like booty sometimes, even in single player, let alone co-op. But honestly, watching the game struggle as we both wiped out thousands of enemies at once kind of added to the fun. It felt like we weren't just breaking the enemy's will, but the Switch's will to live too, and that was super cool. It's also a really easy game to get into. As long as player 1 knows what they're doing, player 2 can just hack, slash, and have a blast. And I'd be remiss not to mention the story. Yes, it's an alternate timeline and therefore not canon, but we ended up enjoying it way more than we expected. So it checks all 3 of my boxes, and while it barely squeaks onto the list, I'm really happy it's here. Untitled Goose Game is such a perfect experience for this list, and I'm happy to be giving it its flowers 5 years later. With 2-player local co-op, you and a friend get to inhabit 2 geese and basically bring hell to earth for a small countryside idyllic town. It's hard to pin down a genre here, but it's best described as a slapstick stealth sandbox, which basically means your main objective is, like I said, to terrorize innocent townsfolk until you find a way into your next area, and a lot of that is done pretty stealthily. That might mean stealing a kid's glasses or completely breaking a gardener's already fragile psyche. And of course, there's a dedicated honk button for when you need to blow off some steam, which you will have to do. Playing with 2 players is definitely the way to go. One goose can distract villagers while the other sneaks around to cause chaos, but it's really the comedy that makes it shine. The joy comes from laughing together as everything falls apart in the most ridiculous ways possible. And the beauty of it is how simple it is, both in premise and controls. It's a game you can play with literally anyone. When I think of Goose Game, I think of playing with my little sister, someone who doesn't really touch games too often, and that's exactly why it's such a great co-op experience I'll always associate with the Switch. Spenlunky 2 not making the top 10 is something I'm going to have to wrestle with for a long time, but that is my burden to carry. For all of you, just know this is an absolute must-play that can easily slot into any game night with friends. Spenlunky is all about diving deeper into caves filled with increasingly absurd traps, enemies, and platforms. It supports up to 4-player co-op both locally and online, though local is definitely the way to go. What makes it shine, much like Goose Game, is the comedy. Almost every death ends up being a hilarious chain reaction of mistakes, usually usually with a healthy dose of friendly fire. I can't tell you how many times we died because someone accidentally pushed a teammate off a ledge or shot an arrow straight into their back. But thanks to its roguelite nature, restarting is quick, so those moments feel more like shared laughter than frustration. It's definitely a challenging game, don't expect to beat it anytime soon, especially with casual players, but that's kind of part of the fun. The simple controls and straightforward premise make it accessible, and if things go south, you can always just carry your friend's lifeless body through the level like a true hero. For all those reasons, it's a perfect fit for the Switch, and if you want to save a few bucks, the original Spenlunky is still a great option too. You can't tell the story of the Switch without talking about its predecessor, the Wii U, mostly because so many of the Switch's best games originally started there and found new life on a much more successful console. Pikmin 3 is one of those games, and its Deluxe edition on the Switch added full 2-player local co-op for the entire campaign. It's one of those features that feels like it should have always been there, and I really wish Pikmin 4 had included it too. Co-op lets you split up and tackle twice as many objectives, or team up on puzzles that feel even more satisfying with two brains working in sync. In terms of accessibility, it probably lands somewhere between casual and experienced players. The gameplay loop is unique and might take a bit to click, but the simple charm of the Pikmin themselves can win over anyone once it does. Hopefully, whatever Pikmin's next adventure looks like, whether that's a Switch 2 version of 4 or a full-blown sequel, it brings this feature back. It just makes too much sense to leave it behind only for Pikmin 3. Nobody Saves the World is one of the most creative co-op dungeon crawlers on the Switch, and it's absolutely perfect for this list. You and a friend can shapeshift into over a dozen different forms, each with their own abilities, traversal methods, and progression paths, but the real magic happens once you start mixing and matching those powers to create some absolutely busted combos. For example, our zombie and necromancer pairing was borderline unfair. We were summoning hordes of undead, turning enemies into minions, and melting bosses in seconds. It was just fun. Beyond the chaos though, Nobody Saves the World has some genuinely great writing and quirky humor that fits the tone perfectly. The art direction pops if you're into it, the characters are memorable, and the dungeons are just the right mix of challenging and rewarding. It's the kind of game that makes you want to keep experimenting together, unlocking new forms, trying out new builds, and seeing just how broken you can make your duo, and that's why I'm happy to say it's in the top 15. Ship of Fools is one of those games that completely caught us off guard in the best way possible. This co-op roguelite strikes the perfect balance between being super approachable while still offering that deep roguelite progression that we all love. You can experiment with different characters and trinkets that enhance your abilities, and ship upgrades that completely change how each run feels. Combat keeps you constantly on your toes too. You're not just firing cannons and swatting sea monsters, you're also scrambling to keep your ship from falling apart mid-fight. It gets chaotic pretty fast, but when you and your crewmate pull through a tough boss battle by the skin of your teeth, it's incredibly satisfying. It's also one of the shorter games on this list, maybe 8 hours or so, but it's such a well-paced and memorable ride that it easily earns a spot here. It's very pick up and play too, perfect for a quick session or two without needing to relearn complex systems every time you hop back in, and you're going to want to hop back in a lot, so I'm glad to have it here. The last roguelite on this list is Ember Knights, and it is a game that we have championed for years, so I'm glad to bring it back to your attention here today. Its hack and slash combat is excellent regardless of which of the 6 weapons you choose. There's a ton of upgrades and abilities to acquire on a run, all of which add up to some incredible build crafting. Most roguelites handle this kind of stuff well, but Ember Knights is special because it makes it all work seamlessly in co-op. It's super satisfying to create synergies within your squad, and the game makes it easy to do so with some co-op forward UI that was sort of the first of its kind. It's a little tougher than some titles here, which might push casual gamers out, but the challenge is part of its charm. Ember Knights is one of our favorite roguelites of all time that we come back to again and again. It never seems to age, and it's a title that you'll want in your Switch library to pull out with friends whenever you want something fun, challenging, and perfectly cooperative. Perhaps no indie is more synonymous with the Switch than the Overcooked games. Just about everyone I know who owns a Switch, even if they mainly bought it for Animal Crossing or Mario Kart, ends up downloading either Overcooked 1 or 2, and for good reason. Its hilarious take on co-op cooking is incredibly easy to pick up and play thanks to simple controls, yet it's challenging enough to drive your group completely mad. With the rise of chef lingo like Behind and Yes Chef in recent years, the game's comedy has only grown. There have been a ton of imitators since it launched, calling them copycats. It doesn't quite do them justice to how good some of them are, but Overcooked is the original. It's a must-have for every Switch owner, perfect to pull out with friends or family when you feel like screaming and laughing at the same time. Luigi's Mansion 3 is a game I think about way more than most, and for good reason. Simply put, it is a banger. Vacuuming up ghosts, solving puzzles, hunting down every collectible. The quality here is all amazing, but it's taken to the next level when you add a friend. Luigi, the abomination that he is, changes the game entirely, even if it takes an hour to unlock him. Two heads are always going to be better than one for solving puzzles and finding those surprisingly hidden collectibles, but he also makes taking in the soul-crushing charm of the Haunted Hotel even more fun. I will never stop recommending Luigi's Mansion 3 as a must-play co-op title, so please do yourself a favor and give this one a go. It Takes Two is a game that should properly be on any co-op list as long as it's readily available, and yes, it's available for the Switch. The only reason it's not higher is that it's obviously going to run and look better on other consoles, but the fact that it's playable on Switch at all is a minor miracle and worth shouting out. The game is pure co-op from the ground up, you have to play it with someone else, and it constantly finds new ways to make you work together. One minute you're flying a plane while your partner is fighting a squirrel, the next you're shifting gravity while they're changing size. Every level is going to throw absurd, inventive situations at you, and figuring them out together is a blast from start to finish. It's not quite as accessible as we'd like, since your partner should have some platforming skill, but if they can handle it, It Takes Two is an absolute must play. We have gone far too long on this list without mentioning the main man himself, so it's time to remedy that with Super Mario 3D World. Another Wii U enhanced title that really didn't need much enhancing, it's already an all-timer for me. The co-op here is both cooperative and chaotic in that classic Mario way. Sure, you're all trying to reach the finish line, technically working together, but just as often you're throwing your friend off the ledge, because why not? It's a Mario game after all. The levels are inventive and play with both old and new Mario tropes in all the right ways, and this game continues to age like a fine wine. I'm always down to come back to it with a friend, helping them through, even if the camera isn't always perfect for co-op. Mario games aren't necessarily the best co-op experiences, but they're the ones you naturally think of when it comes to Nintendo's co-op catalog. So far, big pat on the back for me. I've done a solid job of keeping this list focused on local co-op, but let's take a quick detour with Monster Hunter Rise. Originally a Switch exclusive, Rise brought modern-day Monster Hunter action on the go in a very impressive way. It's definitely more arcade-like and action-focused compared to World and its sequel Wilds, but honestly that makes it even better for co-op. With dedicated co-op missions, it's never confusing how to join friends or what progress carries over, making it easily the most co-op-friendly Monster Hunter to date. And of course, all the usual series greatness is here, the deep weapon variety, the massive monsters, and the satisfying grind. The Sunbreak DLC only pushed things further, elevating Rise to its absolute best form. We loved Monster Hunter Rise, it's probably our favorite in the series, and even though it's not local co-op, it still absolutely earns a high spot in any Switch co-op collection. Alright, it is time to break all of my rules and just say that Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition is a top 3 Switch co-op experience. No, it is not an exclusive, it does not have local co-op on this version, and it's not exactly casual friendly. But I really don't care. It's probably our favorite co-op game of all time, and it's available on Switch, so you're gonna have to deal with it. This critically acclaimed RPG has set the standard for cooperative RPG experiences, only ever rivaled by Baldur's Gate 3. The story, the strategy, the way you have to plan every move with your group, it adds up to an incredibly deep and engaging co-op adventure. We spent countless hours in this world and came out the other side better teammates and better friends. Sure, it is a bummer that the Switch can't handle local co-op like the other consoles, but the experience is so compelling that if you're stuck on this hardware, it is still worth figuring out a way to play with your squad. No, I am not a crazy person. Cat Quest 3 is one of the best co-op games on the Switch, full stop. If you've played it, you know why, but if you haven't, let me break it down for you. Cat Quest 3 takes the action RPG formula, hits it with a shrink ray, and turns it into a hilarious and charming pirate romp starring cats and mice alike. The RPG elements are mechanically deep enough to keep you engaged, but not so deep that casual players get lost, and the Soulsian-style combat strikes that same balance. The world itself has plenty of nooks and crannies to explore, but the entire game can be completed in roughly 12 to 15 hours. Its pacing, its size, its difficulty all feel perfectly tuned, making it one of the most underrated games we've ever covered on this channel. If you take anything away from this video, let it be this. You should have played Cat Quest 3 already. If you haven't, go make it happen like yesterday. It was really tough to settle on the final game for this list. I went back and forth over at least the last 7 titles as being contenders, but ultimately I wanted a game that hit all of my key factors: local co-op, extreme accessibility, and of course that unmistakable Nintendo charm. That's why I chose Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I love Wonder for so many reasons, and one of the best is playing it on the couch with Gabe and our partners. It's chaotic, classic 2D Mario at its finest, thanks in large part to the Wonder Seeds. 2D Mario co-op is always a little bit unruly, but with Wonder Seeds, it feels like the game leads into that chaos and turns it into a fun, intentional part of the experience. It was even more fun when it was just Gabe and me because we could focus and hunt down all the hidden collectibles in a way that felt different than most 2D Mario games. For a few moments, the levels even kind of slowed down, giving us a breather from the usual chaos. I know a lot of people feel that 2D Mario games aren't always the best co-op experiences. I get that, I can agree really, but I think Wonder is the best version yet. It embodies Nintendo's ability to surprise you and bring your group together in a special way. For that reason, it's taking the crown of this video. When I look back on the Switch, I'm going to remember Wonder as one of its most quintessential co-op gaming experiences. I ended up skipping an official honorable mention segment this time due to time, but if you were paying attention, you might have noticed I've shown a ton of other games in the intro and sprinkled throughout the video as background footage. I'm doing the same thing right now. All of these extra titles that I'm showing are fantastic, and any one of them could have made the list if it weren't such a competitive field, or probably if just someone else with different tastes made the video. So keep your eyes peeled on them, go back, rewatch, jot down some of these games, and add them to your backlog. They're all excellent co-op choices for your Switch and perfect for when you're looking for more fun to share with friends. Alright friends, that is all for today. I took a lot of time to think through this list, and while I know not everyone will agree, I hope you'll share your thoughts and help others discover even more games to play with friends down in the comments. The Switch has been good to me, and I'm sure to many of you as well, so let's celebrate it as we start to sunset it into the great beyond of retro gaming. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider joining us for more co-op content in the future, and we'll catch you all on the next episode of the Co-op Bros.